What up? This is Yinka Diz,
Peace, this is Outlaw.
and you're listening to the 80s Babies podcast.
And on today's episode, we have a Put You Up for the 7th studio album from De La Soul. The grind date released October 5th, 2004.
Yeah.
And obviously, we figured because of the recent passing of Dave from De La Soul. Is it Trugoy the Dove?
Trugoy the Dove.
Trugoy the Dove,
Plug
yeah.
2.
Yeah. And plug 1 would be Pasta News, right?
Right.
Yeah, so he recently passed, rest in peace. And obviously, so De La Soul's been on our mind a lot. So
Yeah.
we're recording this. When are we recording this? We're recording this Sunday, February 19th, which is probably a couple of weeks after we'll have released this episode. But yeah, so, I had never really heard this album. Of course, I've heard a few songs from it. But why did you choose this album in particular for us to do a Put You Up?
So I mean, I think we've talked about doing a few different albums, but this is one of the ones that we talked about. I think this album came out around the time of Fish Scale by Ghostface.
I think that might have came out a few years later, actually. Yeah,
Really?
I think that was 2006.
Okay, that sounds right.
Mhm.
I remember. Okay, here's what I remember the most about this.
Okay.
And we can go when we talk about this track. We talk about it. But Ghostface is featured on this album.
Yeah.
There was dispute between Ghostface and De La Soul about his appearance on this album.
Okay.
And so it caused kind of some controversy when it comes to the underground circles and stuff like that. And when we talk about that record, we can kind of go into more detail. But I remember this album a lot. And I think that one of the things that I remember the most about this album is Dave's verse on Much More.
Okay.
And that record and that appearance is kind of almost iconic in its own way. And I think when Dave is remembered, a lot of times this is the verse that they describe. And I was watching the NBA All-Star game last night, or the dunk contest and 3-point, all that stuff, the All-Star weekend. And they played Much More when the dunk contest was about to start.
That's good.
And they played Dave's verse. You know what I mean? So I just think this, when it comes to Dave and remembering Dave, rest in peace, this is like the album that I think just makes me remember him the most. And I think that Much More verse is really iconic. So while we had talked about doing this album previously, I thought that now would be a great time to do it with, the recent passing of Dave. So
that makes sense.
That's kind of the choice.
All right. So I guess we should get into the where were you when you first heard this?
Yeah. So I was at UVA.
Right.
Oh man. So this is 04.
Yeah, this is
So this
October
would've been
04. This would have been the fall semester of your third year. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right. So where was I third year? So I would have been just moved off campus into Sterling. I don't know what they call it now, but yeah. But man, I don't know. Like, I just remember the time frame. I don't remember like exactly where I was. I do remember though that this album had a lot of heavy hitters on it, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of producers. So at the time, I've always been, kind of backpacky and whatever. So this has a J Dilla beat on it. J Dilla beats on it.
Yeah.
This has Madlib beats on it. This has Ninth Wonder beats.
Mhm.
So in terms of like production wise, it was an event. De La was on it, so it was an event. And the other thing that I remember about it was that Yummy was kind of starting to come up. I think she had like a feature with a song with Jadakiss around this time, where she was featured on like an NBA commercial. So Yummy Bingham was on here. So this kind of camp was getting some light. But the one big memory that I have of this in terms of the Where Were You, Much More was featured on the Chappelle Show. And so, I loved this about Chappelle. Chappelle was clearly ahead. And so, he would use his platform to give these, hip hop groups opportunities to perform on his show. So they did Much More with Yummy. They're in a tour bus. Yummy's singing, and they're walking into the tour bus is kind of the shot. You see Dave Chappelle just kind of nodding in approval in the background. And Dave's verse, which is the verse that they always show, he says something about like, Gamma Ray rap, I make the Hulk snap. And he's got this like Hulk fist glove on,
Mhm.
and he does it, and he shows the glove or whatever, right? And I remember that, like, that whole thing. But I felt like that was kind of the coming out party for this album, because Chappelle's Show was the biggest thing ever, and then they appeared or whatever. So that's the where was I? Where were you?
So this would have been the fall semester of my 5th year at, a UVA. I
Okay.
was in Hereford, so, I was hanging out with, Stevie Rich, who he and I used to make beats for a little bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
But then I think Jelani was there. Was Ibrahima still in Hereford?
Probably, yeah. I think they both
Yeah.
were there.
Um, Adebayo, Patrick Dernazay, Cass with a K, Brandon Bezo was there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of the folks that I was hanging out with. And I was really heavy into making beats at this time.
Okay.
So some of the music on here would have been in my vein. Other
Yeah.
beats on here were kind of like beats of the time that weren't really. That I listen now and I'm like, yeah, I
Weren't really
wasn't
your
really
bag.
messing with this kind of beat.
Yeah.
But I think for me, after their resurgence, right? So
Okay.
I was familiar with De La Soul, from like the 3 Feet High Rise and De La Soul, right? Like
Yep.
the whole
Yep.
like native tongue sound, right?
Yep.
And then when they came out again, when I was like in the latter stages of high school, with I think it was Artificial Intelligence with the Ooh Ooh
Yep.
Ooh
Yep.
featuring Redman, right?
The
That was their
AOI
like
shit.
return. And this was
Uh-huh.
back in the day when like if a group hadn't been out for like 3 years and they come out with an album, it's like, oh, they're back, they're returning.
Yeah. Yep.
Now
Yep. Yep.
it doesn't matter as
It
much.
doesn't matter. Right.
And that album had songs that I liked, but ultimately and the packaging of it, like, was great.
You're talking AOI.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And the packaging of it was great, and, I was like, "Oh, yeah, the return to real hip hop, like, this is my bag, like, I'm in it." And I think, to be honest, I was kinda underwhelmed by that album, and as a
Okay.
result of that, De La Soul was just like, "Yeah, I don't care about them anymore."
Okay.
Respect, but, like, I'm not gonna be excited for one of their projects. So, De La
Gotcha.
Soul comes out, I'm just kinda like it just kinda passed me by. And I think that we talked about this before ad nauseum, but this is kind of around the time when I'm slowly phasing out of hip hop. The albums that are in my attention would be artists that like I've kind of grown up enjoying. So, if the
Okay.
Roots come out, they got the tipping point of phrenology. I'm gonna listen to that. It's a Live
Okay.
Kweli has like Beautiful Struggle or whatever, right? I'm gonna listen to that.
Oh my
Most
god.
Def the New
That album was so
Danger,
bad.
right? Like Outkast had the Speaker Box Love Below. I think came out
Hmm.
sometime
Hmm.
around this time. Jay Z, and then of course like Kanye West comes out, and I
Hmm.
think Kanye West, that album, we don't have to litigate it here, but that was probably like the straw that helped break the camel's back in the sense
Uh-huh.
that so many people love that album, and while there are bits of it that I liked, compared to the albums that I used to love, I'm like, this is just underwhelming, right? Like, it's just you can't speak about this album the same way you speak about Black on Both Sides. Like, you just can't. Not to me, and not to have me like want to enjoy this anymore. And I think that there's actually songs on here that kind of remind me of that just like general sound and hip hop at the time that was just
Okay.
kind of like underwhelming. I think that like this is definitely a good album. It's definitely an album that I enjoyed. I wish, and I said this before, I wish that I got put up on MF Doom sooner. If I had really paid attention to Mad Villainy at that time, like I think things might have been a little
Mhm.
different for me because that album is amazing.
Okay. Yep.
But generally speaking, I say all that just to kind of put you in the headspace of where I was when this came out. So,
Mhm.
that's just kind of where it was. I don't think I ever really would have given this album a chance at the time. Though there are a
Okay.
few songs on here, especially the Dilla joints that like I really, really enjoy. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Ninth Wonder did his thing on this as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of where I was.
Dope.
Yeah.
You want to talk
Uh,
about critical reception?
yeah, so obviously, you would know better than I would. I mean, what was everybody
Mhm.
else saying about this album when it came out?
I think again, this is an album for the heads. So,
Mhm.
the people that I knew that weren't heads, nobody was talking about this album.
Right.
But the heads really liked it, and I think it was a few different things. I think for the heads, like, all of the producers, right,
Mhm.
were all the people that we wanted to hear, and they were all on an album. That was great. You had an appearance from Common, you had appearance from Ghostface, like, so, some of the features were good, but at the same time, I think that we as heads kind of got used to De La being a bit lengthy, wordy, can be a little kind of preachy almost, and would have like a lot of skits. And I think people were pleasantly surprised by the brevity of this album and by the kind of the lack of skits. It almost felt like it was a bit of a departure from some of their previous things that they had done. So I think that's pretty much what most people were saying, was that they were pleasantly surprised by this. Enjoyed it, enjoyed the brevity, enjoyed the cast of characters here.
Well, it looks like it was met with mostly critical praise.
Mhm.
There's some middling reviews on here for sure, which
Yep.
doesn't surprise me. But I think ultimately, if I had to average it out, it looks like it's like a B plus on here.
Yeah.
And I
It seemed
think,
like most people liked it, but our boy Robert Christgau clearly didn't like it, and Rolling Stone didn't like it.
yeah, what did
Christgau said gave it 1 star honorable mention, which I don't even know what that means.
I think that's
A
silly.
and then Rolling Stone gave it 2 out of 5 stars.
If anybody knows how we can get in touch with Robert Christgau, please. Like, I'm dying to interview this man. I really am.
Yeah.
I think that's unfair. I would probably give it. I think in the context of 2004, I'd probably give it
Mhm.
a B plus. I think for me,
Mhm.
I'd probably give it a B. But there are some things on here I really, really like. So
Yeah.
a B is
Yeah.
not like a slight, not for me anyway. So
So out of 5 stars, what is that for you?
all right, in the context of 2004, I'd probably
Mhm.
give it a 4 out of 5. In the
Yeah.
context of like my greater like hip hop experience, probably a 3 out of 5, maybe like a
3, wow.
3.25 out of 5. Yeah.
3.25 is such an outlaw
I know,
answer.
I know, I know, I know. I'd probably give it like a 6. I guess like a 6 out of 10,
Yeah.
maybe. Maybe a
Okay.
6.5 out of 10. I don't know.
Got you. Got
Yeah,
you. Okay.
yeah,
I think I would also give it a 4 out of 5 in the context of time.
yeah,
And I think, like you said, without a context of time, that might skew down a little, maybe
yeah.
like a 3.5
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or
That
4.
sounds
Yeah.
about right. That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so let's get into these overarching highlights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
You want to start?
you know what? Sure, I will start if, as
Okay.
soon as I can. Alright, yeah. So obviously, I gotta give credit to some of the producers that you already mentioned, right? So in particular,
Yeah.
Jay Dilla, Madlib, and Ninth Wonder. I
Yep.
think they really held it down for me. And I mean, Jay Dilla is just, yeah.
He's Jay
What
Dilla.
he did with his 2 tracks on here. Did he have 3 tracks?
He might have had 3. Let me see.
No, he looks like he had
Body.
2.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're
you're right. He
sequenced,
has 2.
2 and 3, which is like perfect
Yeah.
for me.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, just amazing. The genuine chemistry on the mic from De La is amazing, right? And this is something
You're
that
2 for 2 for me in terms of highlights. I've got the exact same highlights. So go ahead.
this is I think my favorite thing about early early golden era hip hop artists,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
especially like groups that were successful because like look, there's probably a lot of groups that had hits or whatever that we don't even like
Yeah,
remember who they were, right? But like
Right.
the ones
Right.
who carried the test of time, like they carry the test of
Uh-huh.
time for a reason. And it's
Right.
because there's a good marriage between like their voice and the beats. Right. And I
Yep.
think
Yep.
that there's times in this album where I'm not even like paying attention to what they're saying, but like I
Mhm.
still enjoy listening to them because they just sound good. They sound good together,
Yeah. Yeah.
back and forth, and they just sound good like independently of one another, like on the music. And I think that that's great,
Completely
and that's
agree.
something that the vintage era hip hop groups really, really captured well.
Completely agree.
And it's really, really, really refreshing to hear that, especially for like an album that comes out in 2004. Like it's great.
Right. Right.
Length, it's not too long. So even though
3
there's
for
some
3.
songs on here that I'm not a big fan of, and there's some stretches on this album that I'm not really a fan of, it's like it's what 50 minutes, 52 minutes, like it's fine.
Yep.
And there's a bonus track
Yep.
at the end, so who cares? Right.
Right. Right.
I would say I already mentioned like the vocal performances, but really I had to highlight Dave, Trugoy is it Trugoy the Dove?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to highlight him because in my mind, Pasta Noose is like the key talent, vocal talent
Right.
from
Right.
this group.
Yep.
And while he's got a couple verses on here, I think he rips it. Like for example, you say that Dave on Much More rips it. I think Pasta
Mhm.
Noose rips it on that verse too, right?
Yeah. For sure.
But for the most part, Dave is kind of coming with it. And it's not
Yeah.
even that like, I won't even say he's like barring up. He sounds great
Yeah.
on here. Sounds
Yeah,
great.
I agree. And I think also from a subject matter perspective,
Yeah.
he gives us like a lot of context about the things that he's going through in his life
Yeah.
in a way that makes it like really relatable.
Yeah. I will say the opening sequencing, or at least like the sequencing, like the first half of the album, that to me is like the
Mhm.
strength of the album is the opening half. And there's got some
Okay.
songs in the latter half, especially the one that features MF Doom, because it's Doom.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the opening sequencing of the album I think is great. And then the last thing I
Okay.
had to say, something that's refreshing, is like hearing MCs that actually care more about their listeners than they care about themselves. And I was
Okay.
thinking about something like, obviously I think one of the key albums that came out around this time would have been the Black Album from Jay-Z, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jay-Z is someone who held us down for a long time. But if you really think
Six
about it,
Summers, damn. Where's the love?
he is such a self-centered MC. And in fact, all these MCs in that ilk are the very same way. Even like Kanye, to an extent, at that time,
Okay.
was very,
Yeah.
very self-focused about like, here I am, look how cool I am. And
Right. Right.
like, that's not what's going on this album. It's like,
Mhm.
yo, like, yeah, we're here, but I'm not I'm a hip hop legacy that's not
Yeah.
really a superstar. And this is what I have to offer you. And it's very much like, what is my listener going to get out of this? Like,
Yeah.
how are we going to work together? Like, this is what I'm providing. This is what you're
Yeah.
receiving. And like, I want this album to benefit you and your personal livelihood in whatever way it can. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just kind of refreshing,
I
like,
feel that their tone has always been kind of like in service to
yeah,
hip hop. You know what I
exactly,
mean?
exactly.
As opposed to like, yo, check me out, like most of us MCs.
And don't get me wrong, like, I'm here for the braggadocious too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, all these rappers that wanna get up there and brag and boast about how they're the best, like, I'm with it. But, like, it is refreshing to hear it from this perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really good. So what
Dope.
I missed, what you got?
We're almost exactly on the nose with ours. So I'll
Okay.
run mine quick. I said production.
Yeah.
They've got the who's who of underground super producers and
Mhm.
combine that with Super Dave, and they create something amazing.
Gotcha.
Length, fairly succinct at around 53 minutes. Very few skits, which was a departure for them.
Okay, yeah, true.
Um, I said group chemistry, the way their verses weave in and out. It's almost like you're listening to one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that too. I said features. Everyone sounds great for the most part.
Mhm.
Yummy Bingham sounds great. Common rips it. Bones Malone rips it. Butter V rips it. Doom rips it. Like everybody for the most part came on. And there's a couple features that I'm okay on, but for the most part, the features are great.
Okay.
And then my last one is samples. I think the
Oh, yeah, it's
samples
a good
chosen
one.
here are really great. And I think, you and I, one of the things that we bonded over in college and beyond, right, is like we've both tried to make beats. At
Yeah.
least, I'll say tried. I'm not gonna say we were Jay Dilla or anything like that, but we both try to make beats. And so,
Yeah.
we've both gone digging. We both have an understanding of sample choices and like the work that the sample's doing versus the work that the sampler is doing, and
Right.
et cetera. And man, there's just some great choices here. In some cases, it's like they chose a great record. In other cases, it's like they chose a record that's like, all right, but they did like amazing things with it, right? Like Love Ballad to me is one of the greatest songs ever made. So to sample Love Ballad, you have a heavy task at hand because you have to make something that's either better than Love Ballad, which is impossible, or such a departure that it feels like you added something to the musical lexicon.
Yeah.
And he somehow did that here, So I think the samples chosen are amazing on this.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
All right, so
You
I
want to
guess
give
we'll get into the lowlights, the overarching
Yeah.
lowlights. So there's some producers and some production on here that I was kind of disappointed with, and I didn't
Mhm.
hate every track that they
Mhm.
produced, but Jake One and Super Dave West, I have to say, are kind of lowlights for me. Now, Jake One gives
Really?
us Rock Cocaine, which is great, but
Yes.
like
Yes.
Days of Our Lives, when we get into that beat, is kind of underwhelming. And
Okay.
Super Dave West gave us It's Like That, which is great,
Uh-huh.
and Future, which is cool.
Yeah.
Um, he comes parts of the song I like, parts of the song I don't like, and then gave us
Okay.
Grind Date, which I
Uh-huh.
despise this beat.
Really?
I despise it. Yes. I
Oh, okay.
despise this beat. This beat is so
Wow.
2004. And these are the types of beats that I hated, that I couldn't stand. That
Interesting. Okay.
that like if you talk about like why don't you like hip hop anymore? It's like it's beats like this. I cannot stand this beat.
We have a
Cannot,
very
so
different
so
take on
it's
there. Yeah.
it's look, overall, like I have to say it's a low light just because the things that I disliked about the album were
Okay.
in that direction. Doesn't mean
Okay.
everything he did and Jake One did on the record was bad. Like that's not true. It's just kind of an
Yeah.
uneven thing. But the things I didn't like about this album, it was their contributions, if you will.
Okay.
Um,
That's
and I
fair.
and I
That's interesting.
and I think that leads into like a lot of this started happening, even though the grind date is in the is in the beginning of the album. Their
Mhm.
verses deliver on there, and there's still like
Yeah.
another 2, 3 good tracks after that. But the
Yeah.
middle to back half sequencing of this album is kind of like some of these songs that just kind of started getting boring to me. Like I'm listening to it, and I'm like,
Okay.
it's just boring. So
Okay.
that's kind of like my lowlights there. Yeah, what you got?
Got you. Got you. It's interesting. I think we have very different takes, at least with the production. Because my only low light is actually Madlib. And it's
Mm,
unfortunate that he's the low light to me because I think Madlib is one of the greatest producers of all time.
yeah,
I just really don't like his work here. I think
got you.
that the shopping bag song, I'm not a fan of.
Okay,
The Come On Down song, I'm just like, I really don't care for that song.
that's fair. Yeah, I'm not a
So
fan of that one
yeah,
either. But I did
yeah.
like
So
shopping bags though.
yeah. So we'll
Yeah.
talk. We can talk more when we go track for track. But Madlib is literally my only low light
Okay.
on this album. Yeah.
Got you. All right, so then let's start it off with the future. And
The
what do you got
future.
for this one?
I love this beat. I
Okay.
love what they did with the beat. I think that I said here this is a record that I had in my catalog in college on vinyl.
Mm,
I've mentioned before that Switch is my favorite group to sample. I love the DeBarges, and I love Switch, and I love the concept of the group Switch. I love it. So I have probably everything that they've ever done on vinyl. But this is an album that I had even in college. And I remember hearing this album. And then back in the day, we had the Scratch Magazine. Scratch Magazine, it was like
mm.
the source, but for producers.
Yeah, okay.
Some folks know if you know, you know. But I used to get every single issue of Scratch Magazine because it would be these producers and they would break down how they made beats and etc. They did a feature on this particular album and they showed the cover of the albums of each of the songs that were sampled. And when I saw that Switch album cover, I'm like, I have this album.
Mm.
So then I went back and I grabbed it and I threw it on and I'm like, these motherfuckers, I should have done this. Like, when you hear something and you're like,
Yeah.
I could have done this. Like,
Mhm.
why didn't I do this?
Yeah.
That's how I felt about this. And so I love the sample and I love what they're talking about too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, essentially, they're coming, like you said, this is their second comeback.
Yeah.
So they're a group that's returning. They're a legacy act. They're older, and so this is them talking about like we need to leave a great legacy for the children, the acts that are coming behind us. And so this is what we're doing. And I feel like for them to be coming back and at the age that they are and who they are in hip hop, this song is a perfect opener for them. So I thought this was great.
It is a really good opener for them. Initially, it wasn't a highlight for me, but as I continued to listen to the album, it became one of the highlights, for
Yeah.
sure. So, and this is Super Dave West. I think this is one of his
Yep.
better contributions on the album.
I agree.
And I do love like the way they mix in the little. I'm not sure if that's a vocal sample or someone's coming in behind to. We are ding ding.
Yeah, that's the sample.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. And
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
like that it keeps with the it's a good opener to the album. It's a great intro. And I think it introduces us to the themes, which are pretty reinforced throughout the album, which I think is good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And another thing that I think is interesting was the choice of so if you listen to that Switch song, right?
Mhm.
It's actually really like an interlude. It's an intro. And it starts the same way the album starts, which is the volume is really, really low, and then it gradually
Yeah.
goes up, up, up. And so it's kind of jarring, right? Because you press play and you expect music to come out, and
Yeah.
then it like starts all quiet, and you're looking at your CD player or whatever, like, is my shit messed up? Like, what's going on? And I like so that's how I felt about the Switch song, and I like the choice that De La did to do the same thing, where they gradually fade the song up and then they start rapping.
Got you.
I thought that was dope.
Cool. So
Verbal
now we
clap.
get verbal clap. And
Okay.
initially this was my highlight of highlights. Initially.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
There's a song I like even better, even more than this, but I think Jay Dilla did amazing things on this record.
Okay.
And I love like the bridge or like the hook, the way that they like the beat kind of switches up and then the dun, 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 dun. Like I don't know. I love the energy off of this. It's
Okay.
mostly Jay Dilla driven for me, but I
Yeah.
mean, Pasta News and Dave also deliver here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this song.
Okay. I don't agree
Mhm.
personally. I don't love or hate this record. But it's just okay to me.
Got you.
I think I like the sample better than I like the song. So,
Maybe.
this
Okay.
samples that Long Red by The Mountain,
I
which
haven't
is
heard the
like
sample.
you have though. You know that y'all there?
Yeah, yeah,
Louder.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like one of the most sampled phrases of hip hop
Oh, okay,
history,
yeah.
right? And so that's the like the sample here and
But that's not the
it's
sample for the music itself, right? That's just the
no,
vocal sample.
there's another sample for that.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
that
Okay, that's what I thought you
doom,
meant.
doom, doom,
Okay, yeah.
doom. Yeah, no. But it's clap your hands to what he's doing like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that joint. So that's kind of the vocal sample here. And I respect that that he did that because that's like it's a difficult thing to sample in a way that feels unique because it's been done
Mhm.
so many times. But I really don't care for the hook. They're like,
Oh,
let's
I
go
love
beat
it.
for beat and rhyme for rhyme.
You
Put all things aside. Like
Oh,
it's just
man, that's just it's got
it's
such a
so
good
like it's so like hip hop for hip hop's
I
sake to
love it.
me.
I'm here
Like,
for it. I'm
yeah.
bouncing right now just thinking
That's
through it
not
in my
my
head.
bag. But a lot of Jay Dilla fans love this record. I've heard like DJs spin a Jay Dilla set, and this is one of the records that they play. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's just a me thing, but I don't love
It's
this
okay. I
record.
mean, hey, look,
Yeah,
it works for me, it doesn't work for you, but I love this
yeah,
record,
yeah,
so there we go.
yeah. I love Jay Dilla, so yeah, I'm here for it.
So now we get into one which should both be one of our highlights. Obviously, that is Much More featuring Yummy Bingham and
Yes.
DJ Premier with the scratches.
Primo on the scratch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely a
I
highlight.
absolutely love this song. Yeah,
Mhm.
this might have been my highlight of highlights. Like
Okay.
I love everything about this song. I love Yummy Bingham. I love her voice. I've talked about that many times. And this is one of the records I'm talking about when I talk about her. Like I just love her. I love Dave's verse on this joint.
Yeah.
And I feel like, his whole jump back like James Brown. Hey now, want to look over, we smoking the hey now. Like I love how he rips the joint. I said great J Dilla beat, great Primo scratches, musical perfection. And I think that this is one of my favorite samples of all time. The song Love Ballad is so beautiful that it's like, and then Strawberry Letter 23, also a classic, beautiful song. So for somebody to have the audacity to touch either of those songs, they better come with it. And Jay Dilla freaking comes with it.
Wait,
Like,
Strawberry Letter 23 is on here?
yeah, he uses pieces of it in the beat. That he chops that and he puts it into the beat.
Oh, I can hear it now.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
bro,
clever.
like he's a fucking genius,
I mean, he's
bro.
obviously
Like,
he's Jay Dilla.
yes, this is a beat where it's just like you listen to it. So sometimes I listen to beats and I'm like, oh, I saw what they did. I see what they did there.
Yeah.
Other times I hear a beat and I'm like, how the fuck did this person do that? Like you're talking about Fish Scale.
Nah.
More fish, I mean.
Yeah, no.
was it?
True Masters Fish on Iron
Fish.
Man.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's where you're like, you're in your mind, you're trying to deconstruct it and go, how did he put this
It
together?
took a
right?
while. It took a long time for me to figure out how
Yeah.
he did it.
I listen to much more and I'm like, I would never have thought to make this beat. Like I really, really fucking respect it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
What do
The
you
only
think?
thing we disagree with on this is I'm actually not the biggest fan of Yummy Bingham on here. And it's when she,
Yeah.
like, if she were just singing on the hook and it was just like, that's like that, the kind of like flat standard performance, fine. When she actually starts trying to go in and like
Yeah.
ad lib, I'm like,
Yeah.
like her voice
Yeah.
is kind of like, I'm like, okay, I think you missed like a couple notes there. That's the only thing.
I
That's
don't
one only kind
I
of
don't
gripe with it.
entirely disagree with you, but we've talked about I love churchy girl next door voices. Like that it just does something for me. So
Gotcha.
I love her on here.
Got you.
Yeah.
So Shopping Bags featuring Daniel Wallace. I take it so you're not a fan of this song.
If I had a low light, this would be my low light.
Really? Okay.
Yes,
So
I
this is
really
a
like
highlight
this
for me. And I think the two songs that I remember from this album at the time were Much More and Shopping Bags.
Yep.
And I
Those
think
are the
Shopping Bags
singles.
is more like their commercial hit. This is
Mhm.
Madlib doing his best Neptune's impression, and I think he nails it, and also does a Madlib thing with it as well.
Okay.
I like this song. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's been in my head this week. And yeah, like I like the beat. That's pretty much all I can say about it.
I can't say it's not catchy,
Mm-hmm.
but what I can say is that I don't like it, and I think that for me personally, I mentioned this on another episode that we talked about. That De La stayed with like a R&B ish hit
Yeah.
that didn't feel like a reach. So another good example is "It Ain't All Good" with Shaka Khan, right? We love that song. That's a hip hop. People love that song. And it's like, it's got an R&B or it's got a singer on it, but it doesn't feel like a reach. It feels like a De La song.
Yeah.
And I felt like this record was the only record in their catalog that I can think of off the top of my head that felt like a stretch. Like it felt like,
I got you.
oh, I'm trying to do something rather than achieving what I'm trying to do. I was disappointed in Madlib a little bit because I love Madlib. I didn't like this song, and I just felt like it was a reach personally.
It's funny because you and I approach the track the same way, but just have a different perspective.
Okay.
I think that this is a good marriage of vintage De La and modern sensibilities for the time. You didn't think it worked. I thought it did work.
That's a great point, right? Because I think I saw, it was either on the wiki or something else that I read. One of the outlets that reviewed it, they mentioned shopping bags, and they said Madlib attempts to create a beat that was made for Chingy or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Chingy's not a name that we would ever discuss now. But
right
in 2004, right? In 2004, what he's saying is the same thing you're saying, which is like, I'm trying to create what the time sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what it was. It just didn't work for me.
I got you. Well, for me, the beat that didn't work for me is Grind Day, which is
so funny to me.
This is also like a modern sensibility, but not in the commercial sense. I feel like there were a lot of hip hop groups and acts that had like beats that sounded like this, and I hate every single one of them. So why don't you? So you like this song? This is my only low light on the album, and it's not because of the verses. I think lyrically and what they're talking about is important, and I think it's great. Right? Everyone.
Yeah.
I hate this beat, so that's all I have to say. Why don't you tell me why I'm wrong and why you love it?
I think this record is skeletal. I can't say that I love the beat. The beat's cool. It's fine. But this is the song that brings the concepts of the whole album together, right?
Yeah. It does.
And I think that Bones Malone does a really good job of like between the verses explaining what the concept is, and it really brings the whole thing together, right? So my favorite thing that he says is at the very beginning, he goes, "If the meek shall inherit the earth, they're not the weak. Let me inherit the streets. Fuck." And then the beat just drops, right? And then like between each verse, he's explaining the concept, but like from his personal perspective. So he goes, "My dad hates driving a bus, but he loves 5 kids." Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love that. And like, he has like all these little things where he's giving his perspective of what the grind date is. And then the shit that he says at the end where he's like, "Hey, I don't do business with people that I have sex with, but I do have sex with people I do business with," or whatever. That little montage at the end had me cracking up. So I don't know, man. I thought everybody's bars were dope. I thought the talking in between was really, really good. And the beat just works to me.
Yeah, I agree with everything just except the beat. I think the beat is god awful. And I hate every single beat that sounds like this. Wow. And it's a lot. It's monotonous, it's repetitive, it doesn't change, and it's just annoying, and it's predictable, and I hate it. Sorry, Super Dave West. You have other good work on this album. This song, this beat is trash. To me.
Wow.
Wow.
The crazy thing about it is, I don't disagree with you that it's monotonous. I think it makes me laugh because I listened to Yinka as a producer in 2004, and I probably would have made this beat. Like, this is probably something that I would have like toyed with. And then it's probably on my sampler somewhere. It's probably on my MPC right now, just sitting there.
Here's what I will say though, right? I think that sometimes there's beats, and there's another one, I think it's Days of Our Life. I think it's the one Jake one did with Common. That like they're very predictable and they're very repetitive, and they just get old and tiresome, right? Okay. But there's other beats that are even more simple and more repetitive and more monotonous that just work, right? Like something like Premier's Mass Appeal. Right? Okay. That's a repetitive beat. Or Havoc's Hell on Earth, right? Like, it's just a repetitive loop. Like, that's all it is. And yet, I don't get tired of listening to it. And this
Right.
beat right here and other beats like this, I'm like, yo, after 30 seconds, it's like, yo, like, can I skip to the next one or can you kill me? Like, it's that bad. But lyrically
Okay.
though, I agree with everything you said. Lyrically, they contribute,
Yeah.
and I love the themes, and I love like what they do with it. All
Yeah.
that stuff is great. It's beats like this is that's it.
Yeah.
I stated my piece.
And and I feel you. But I want to actually add a highlight that I didn't add before. I actually kind of like the artwork, right? The
Yeah,
artwork
yeah,
and the
yeah.
theme. And apparently they said the guy who made the artwork, his whole deal was like they took a calendar, like a template of like a 2004 calendar, and then like they montaged themselves on top of it. And like the whole theme of the album is about how like they take this blue collar approach to hip hop,
Mm,
and it's a grind. And so
yeah,
every day they're putting in more effort, day in and day out. And I think this song is the song that brings the concept together.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right, so now we get into church. How do you feel about this
Yeah.
song? AKA reality.
I don't care about this song. I said the obligatory Ninth Wonder joint. I said this song is kind of a meh light to me, but I do love Spike Lee, and I love that he's on it.
So I have mixed feelings about Spike Lee. I have respect for Spike Lee.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's on it. I think this is my highlight of highlights. I love this beat.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I just love the claps and the choir at the end. But
So
the song, I don't care.
I love, first of all, I love what they're talking about.
Okay.
I think it's very important what they're talking about. It just kind of goes to the theme of what I was saying in my overarching highlights about like how, what can we do in the service of hip hop? And I think that's very emphatic on this record in particular.
Yep.
But what, like how they incorporate like the vocal sample into the hook, and then they add their own vocals on top of that, like it's real, like,
real.
and the way everything,
real.
Yeah, as I continue to listen to this album more and more this week, this song was just like in my head. And I'm like, yo, like this song is amazing. I absolutely love this song. It's my highlight of highlights. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just a meh light to me.
I got you. Well, yeah, I wish I could say more about it, but I really love what Ninth Wonder did on here. Yeah, I thought it was great. So now we get into It's Like That featuring Carl Thomas.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this?
I don't love or hate this song. It's fine. I love the bass line.
Okay.
I think the hook is okay. I think Carl Thomas sounds fine on it. It's just it feels like a song that's not really about much. But it's cool. I don't know. What did you think of it?
It's a highlight to me, but mainly just because I like Carl Thomas,
Thomas,
on features. I think Carl Thomas featuring on hip hop like only does good things, right? I think it's great. And the other thing too is kind of silly, but like is It's Like That is that like the most quintessential like hip hop song name? I feel like every single group at some point has to have like a song called It's Like That.
Right.
And
or say it.
Yeah.
It's like a thing.
It's something that it's just like it's so obvious, but like it just makes so much sense.
I think that might be the reason why it's such a meh light to me. Is like to me, like you say it's like that when you don't have anything to say, right? Like
That's
it's
fair.
like I mean, we have joints. Me and in the cartel, right? Like we have.
I'm sure I do. I'm sure I have a beat called It's Like That.
We have songs where like there's actually a song, and I don't remember the name of the song, but we have a song when we were the IRS, is what we called ourselves at the time. And Jay is rapping, and he either forgets what he's gonna say or he runs out of lyrics, and he goes, "It's like that daddy," at the end of the verse, right? And I kept it, and it was on the song, and we would always laugh about that when that part came. It's like that daddy. It's just like people just always say "it's like that" when they run out of shit.
But we
And
all
I
know what
feel
it
like-
means. It's like, yo, that's what it's like. It's
Yeah.
like that, you know?
It's like
just
that. But it's like I almost feel like to some degree it almost feels a little wasted,
fair.
Carl Thomas, because it's like
fair.
at the end of the song he's really trying to like ad lib and riff and
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
but
That's what
he's
he
not
does.
he's not talking about anything.
it's
So it's
like
like
that.
he's just saying like oh, and it's like if he had something to sing about, he probably would be killing this shit.
Nevertheless, I enjoy this. So this is actually the end of my run. Even though I hate the grind date beat, nevertheless, like I think
It's
like the
in the
first
run.
opening like 7 tracks is like a good run for me. And I don't really have a highlight until we get to MF Doom. So
Okay.
yeah, so we get into He Comes featuring Ghostface, and
He Comes.
I'm assuming this is a highlight for you.
Absolutely.
Got you.
Because this is the most Ghostface shit ever. I fucking love Ghostface.
So this is quintessential Pretty Tony era Ghostface.
Yes. Like, the beat, everything. The fact that Ghostface has his own chorus, like Pretty Tony and De La Soul. We've been rhyming on the broom since we was 8 years old. So all right, this is the reason why I love this song. I love this song because this is the most Ghostface shit ever. So this is my retelling of what happened as I remember it. So De La Soul loves Ghostface because everybody loves Ghostface. They reach out to Ghostface. Hey Ghostface, can you come do a verse on our song? He says yeah. So they record it. Somehow, at the time, I think De La Soul was on this label that was owned by Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's father.
Okay.
Something happens with the paperwork and shit like that, and Ghostface doesn't get paid, right? So Ghostface's party reaches out to De La Soul's party. Yo, cut the fucking check. The check doesn't come. So Ghostface is like, all right, fuck y'all. He takes the beat. He makes his own version of the song called like Pay Tony version. It's like, He Comes Pay Tony version or whatever. He puts out a like 3-minute and 30-second version of this shit with just him rapping over it, talking about Pay Tone, give me my motherfucking money or whatever. Puts the shit out as his own version of the joint.
That's
and
hilarious.
So there's 2 versions of the song floating around, the Pay Tony version and the version with De La Soul on it. I fucking love that. I love Ghostface. And so I will always love this song because every time I hear it, it reminds me of Ghostface stealing their song and putting it back out.
See, I wish I had known that. Had I been privy to that knowledge, it might change my opinion about the song, which I don't hate. Okay. I'm just kind of neutral about it. First of all, I like all the verses. Even though Pretty Tony era Ghost is not my favorite era of a Ghost. Obviously, I like Supreme Clientele era or like even like Fishgale era, right? Which does sound a little different from this. I like the beats during the verses. What I don't like, and I probably used to do this too, so, you know, but hey, I'm not a producer. I don't get paid to do this. But when I was making beats, I don't like it when producers get lazy and they just take like the sample and don't really do anything with it, and they just speed it up, and like that's the hook.
Shit. I love that shit.
If it works, it works, and I'm sure several times it does work. In my opinion, it does not work on here for it. For me, it sounds unimaginative and tired for me. So that's why it doesn't kind of work for me. And again, this is another one from Super Dave West. Parts of it I like, parts of it it just doesn't work for me. So
yeah, it works for me. So you must not like the next song either then.
I don't hate it, but I do want to say that I think one of our followers, Bowie Walnuts, on Instagram, shout out to Bowie Walnuts. I think he said this is his favorite track on the record. So I'm not trying to diss it. I'm just saying parts of the songs that don't work for me. So that's why it's not a highlight. So,
wait, He Comes is his favorite or Days of Our Lives?
I think He Comes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Got it.
But the next one is Days of Our Lives featuring Common. Not a highlight for me for the reasons that I said earlier about kind of the repetitiveness of the beat is really something that just by the end of the song I'm just tired of it. I do think Common rips it.
Yes.
Common definitely rips it. Aside from that, like I'm just okay with the track. So those are my thoughts. So tell us why you love it, because I'm assuming you like this song.
Yeah, I like this song. I personally love Jake One.
Got you.
I've talked about this. I feel like Bink and Jake One are my 2 favorite album cut producers, probably, period. Okay. So almost anything, like Jake One is another producer that can almost do no wrong for me. Every time I see his name, I'm excited. Pause. So, 1 or 2 Jake One beats on here. I love what he's doing with the beat. And then Common, this is like prime Common.
Yeah.
Like, this is Common doing Common things.
Yes.
The line that I wrote down here that I feel like is Common in his bag. Common. Right. Pre-B. Yeah. Is ain't far from a Benz or dude on the bus.
Yeah.
I feel like that this is one of those Common bars that it's like, it's so profound and so simple at the same time, right? Yeah. Because I feel like this is like most of us, like we're not fucking, I don't know, Aristotle Onassis or whatever. Like, niggas want to be out here talking about how much money they have. But like, I think there's a quote that says something about like everybody's one small tragedy away from homelessness or something like that, right? Like it's like we're closer to the dude on the bus than we are the dude in the Benz or whatever. And I just like how he kind of puts that contrast out there. But yeah, this Common verse is a great Common verse. And I think that the plug one and plug two come off on the joint too. Like it works for me. This record works.
Got you. Anything else to add, or should we move on?
Nah, we can move on.
So Come On Down featuring Flav. Again, I'm neutral about this. I don't hate it, but
it's a Melite, yo. Like Madlib again with another beat I don't care about. And Flavor Flav, I almost don't understand why he's here.
So here's what I will say. I understand the use of a hype man and ad libs on the song, but like Flavor Flav isn't hip hop's only hype man. And I think that I'm not even sure if he's hip hop's best hype man. Like even someone like Kid Capri is a good hype man.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying he works on this track, but like there's other hype men that you could have had on here. Like even if you had like Mos Def on the track just as a hype man, it would have been better. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of Flavor Flav. Mainly it has to do with what he did after this song. And the VH1
all that
bullshit.
VH1 shit.
I don't like that. I don't like what he allowed himself to become. And this song is before that, but still, I don't know. I'm listening to it now, it puts a bad taste in my mouth. And
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
The other aspects of the song don't do enough to salvage it. I'm not saying it's a low light though. Like I don't hate it. It's just
If I could do this over again, I would take some of the percussion out and just make it an interlude where we just get the part where, Flavor Flav comes on. It's like, you're bothering me, G, and whatever. And it's just like a funny, silly little 45-second interlude. And then it goes into the next song. Like, I didn't understand why this needed to be a song.
Got you. So how do you feel about No featuring John Butter versus Cullen? And again, Yummy Bingham, your girl.
Yeah, it was a highlight for me.
I like her vocals more on this probably than I did on a Much More. Because I think she's doing less on this one.
Until the end.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
It's another one from Super Dave West. It's not a highlight for me. It's fine.
Yeah. I think this is another one of the ones I talked about where ambitious sample choice, right?
Yeah.
So this is Never Can Say Goodbye by the Jackson 5, right?
Yes.
That is, so first of all, Michael Jackson will take you for every fucking penny that you ever had. So that's ambitious. Just even touching the Jackson catalog is ambitious. But secondarily, this is a very, very, very well-known song and sample. And so, to even just touch that is ambitious. And I don't think that he fails. Like, I think that he makes an interesting composition. It may get a bit repetitive. I don't disagree with you there, but I really like what he did.
It's so funny. Again, this is another example of us approaching the song the same way and having a different take, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I agree. Like, I hear this song and I hear the sample choice, and I think we all have samples that are just like sacred, like songs that are sacred to us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you can't sample it, but if you do, you need to deliver, right? I've actually sampled this beat, this song.
Yeah. I think I have too.
Yeah. And
I would never put it out though.
But like, I love Never Can Say Goodbye by the Jackson 5. Like it's in my top 5 Jackson 5 songs. Like I love this song. And
it's amazing.
They don't deliver, like he doesn't deliver for me. He doesn't.
I think for me, layering Yummy's voice on top of it makes it more interesting.
Got you. Yeah, I don't hate the track, but I don't love it. And like I said, like this whole stretch for me, I'm just like, it's just so uneven. Like there's things like, oh, it's cool, but they're just like, no. Like,
I agree with that.
It's from track 8 through tracks 8, 9, 10, 11 to me, on the whole, are not a fun musical experience. Whereas tracks 1 through 7, even despite the grind date, was like a fun musical experience for me. Yeah. So that's kind of how I felt about it.
I toyed with adding sequencing as a low light.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I necessarily think it's a low light, but I do agree that there are stretches of the album where it could have been kept more interesting if it was like kind of sequenced a little differently.
Got you.
But I think that Butter V might have my favorite verse on this whole shit. I think that he rips this shit. Like even how he comes on I don't give money, don't support the needy. I was schooled in America, taught to be greedy, and everything ought to be easy. Like he just murders this joint. And I don't know Butta V. Like I wasn't familiar with him. And I want to say I heard this verse and then I went and tried to get into Butta V.
Anything.
And I feel like I found a mixtape floating around somewhere, but I wasn't really feeling what was on there, to be honest. Maybe it was the production. I don't really remember so much. But this verse is great to me. Like his performance on here, all of his performance on here is great. I love how they weave in and out between each other's verses. I love Yummy at the end where the beat drops out. It's like, if the soul keeps rocking the streets, so keep rocking. If the streets stop rocking, the soul keep rock. I just love that whole little, musical breakdown. Man, I like this song a lot.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I think now we get into this is your highlight of highlights, right?
The highlight of highlights
featuring MF Doom. There was another one of our listeners who this was their favorite. I think it was T. Sam. Tony S was also this is their highlight of highlights from the record. So yeah, why don't you tell us about this? This is a highlight for me.
Yeah, this is my highlight of highlights. This is one of my favorite De La songs. This is one of my favorite MF Doom songs, and this is one of my favorite Jake One beats. And it all happens at the same time.
Gotcha.
I wrote here one of my favorite memories of De La Soul. So first of all, did you ever get a chance to see De La Soul live before?
Not an entire show, but I have seen them perform live.
Yeah. So they're a great live performing group. Like it's one of the amazing things about them. And I will never forget, seeing them perform live, and they do this song. A lot of times they'll end with this song, and they do this thing where like they move to the syncopation of the beat. So you know how the beat like goes faster and then it slows down.
Yeah.
So and then they'll slow down like robots, and then they just freeze. And then they wait for the beat to start back up, and then they start dancing again or whatever, right? Like this shit is great to watch live, especially because. So the last time I saw them was at the Taste of Chicago.
Okay.
And I was there with my girl. We saw them, and she had kind of never seen De La. She wasn't really familiar with their catalog. I think a lot of the people there were not familiar with their catalog. And so when they started the song and everybody was frozen, they're all just like, what is like? Everybody's looking around like, what's going on with these niggas? You know what I mean? And then as the beat kind of speeds up, and then they speed up and how they move, I absolutely love that. I love MF Doom during this time frame. This is the time frame where MF Doom was sending random niggas to go perform in his wake, and nobody knew. And then the people were getting chased off the stage and everything. So, an Easter egg is Doom. Anytime you see Doom and he actually appears is great. I don't remember what show it was, but there was a show that De La Soul was asked to perform. I don't know if it was Saturday Night Live or what. And MF Doom comes out in a New York Knicks jersey, and he performs the song with them. So that's, this song is just so iconic. Everything I remember about it is iconic. I love everything about this song. It is my highlight of highlights. What you got to say about it?
The only thing I'll add, because I don't have much, I don't love the Jake One beat as much as you do, but I do like it. Obviously I love what MF Doom does on here. The only thing I thought was really cool was like there's some interesting arrangement choices in terms of the vocal performances. So each MC gets like one short verse and one long verse, which I thought was like kind of clever. Like little things like that in the arrangements, I'm always going to notice that stuff, and I noticed it here, and I thought it was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, dope. This is not my highlight of highlights, but I definitely, especially after the songs that that precede this one. This is definitely a good track for me.
It's a great album ender too.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, being in college and rolling with E, and E would constantly quote this joint. We'd be chilling, and then E would go, "From the top of the key for 3 villain." He just loved that. From the top of the key for 3 villain. So we always say that.
Was great,
this whole verse I love. What does he say? What does he say about like falls off the bike or whatever? He's like,
I'm not gonna be able to quote
bust that ass and get up. Whoever laughed, give him a head up. He got jumped, pumped his adrenaline. Said it made him tougher than a bump of raw medicine. I just love this verse, yo. Like this shit is just great.
Yeah, it's got the most streams on Spotify
of their songs.
Of their songs on this album.
Yeah. That's what's
by a
up.
lot, even
Yeah.
more than much more, by like 20 million.
Oh wow. I
Yeah,
mean,
much.
Doom also
That's true.
is very very beloved in the hip hop circles.
Yeah,
So also I wanted to add that next month the rest of the De La catalog is supposed to be available on
right,
streaming. So
right.
that's a beautiful thing. So for folks that haven't heard De La in a while, give it a month. Go out, stream all they shit, run it, get their money up, make it happen for them.
Got you. So are we gonna talk about Shoomp? This is a bonus track,
Let's
right?
talk. Let's talk about this joint. Yeah, it is a bonus track.
It's not a highlight for me.
I fucking hate this song, bro.
That might be
And
fair.
I'm gonna just be honest. And I'm a big Sean Paul and dancehall fan.
Mhm.
I am a big J Dilla fan. I'm a big De La Soul fan. I really don't like this song. That's the main thing that I can say about it. It's just it feels like you talk about things that feel like 2004. It feels like, hey, this Sean Paul guy is really popping. Hey, Sean Paul, get on the track and do Sean Paul things. Bye, Sean Paul. Like, come on, bro, stop.
How did he ever get so popular? Is what I want to know.
He's dope.
He's dope, but what I would say is, talking to my New York friends who love dancehall, they kind of they respect Sean Paul, but they're also like, he's like the Eminem of dancehall. You know,
Oh wow.
maybe that's not like the exact words they say, but basically they feel like he got popular because of those things. Whereas
Yeah.
like they prefer like Bounty Hunter, Beanie Man, and Elephant Man, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Bounty Killer, excuse me,
Bounty Killer. Yeah.
yeah. But I think Jay Dilla did this beat, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Yeah,
That's
which is
crazy because like I rarely hear Jay Dilla beats that I don't care for. This is one of them. He does use that Tom Tom Club, which is I think that's the same sample that Mariah Carey had for Sweet
Yeah,
Fantasy.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's interesting, I guess, from the perspective of sample choice. But I do not care for this song at all.
Well, one of our listeners did. I think it was Lee Stoneham on our Stoneham.
This is Lee's favorite joint.
When I put out the poll on IG, he said that
Oh,
I said like,
wow.
"What's your favorite verse on this album?" He said "Shoop." So there you go.
Wow. Shout out to Lee. That's the homie Quiz from New Money. So
There we go.
yeah, I'm gonna shit on you when I talk to you, bro. 'Cause this song sucks. I'm gonna just keep it 1,000 with you, and I'm gonna send this to you too. So
Got you.
nah, I really don't like this song.
Got you. All right. Well, do we have any other closing thoughts about the grind date?
Not really. Definitely go run this up for Dave's family. Go on Spotify, Tidal, whatever you do. Listen to this joint so his family can get paid. And we'll see y'all in March when De La's catalog comes out. Maybe we'll have another appearance from our man Panama, who's also a big De La fan.
Certainly is. Certainly is.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.